There was a season in his life where everything looked normal from the outside. He had a job. He paid his bills. He replied to messages. He smiled when people expected a smile. But inside he felt late. Not late like a clock, late like a life. Like everyone else had received a map, and he had missed the meeting. His name was Ibrahim. He was not lazy. He was not careless. He was not the type to quit loudly. He simply carried a quiet pressure that followed him everywhere, even on good days. In the mornings, Ibrahim woke up early, not because he was disciplined, because his mind didn't let him sleep. His thoughts would start before his feet touched the floor. What am I doing? Where is this going? How long will this take? Will I look back and regret everything? He would wash his face, dress neatly, and step into the day, as if he wasn't holding questions in his chest. He knew how to look fine. That was part of the problem. When you look fine, people assume you are fine. At work, Ibrahim was dependable. He did what he was asked. He stayed calm. He avoided drama. But he felt invisible. Not because people ignored him, because he ignored himself. He had become someone who survived quietly, a person who could handle anything, but rarely felt anything fully. He would sit at his desk and listen to coworkers talk about their plans. New projects, new cities, new relationships, new milestones, and he would nod and smile, while a small part of him whispered, "They're moving, and you're just standing." Some evenings he would scroll through his phone and see people announcing progress, engagements, new cars, new jobs, graduation photos. He wasn't angry at them. He didn't hate anyone. He just felt a soft, quiet ache, because he could not explain his own life. He was working, yes, trying, yes, but his progress didn't photograph well. His progress was private. It was waking up and still going. It was learning to breathe through pressure. It was staying consistent while feeling uncertain. No one posts that. One night after a long day, Ibrahim sat on his bed and stared at his ceiling. The room was quiet, not peaceful quiet. Empty quiet, the kind of quiet that reveals the truth. He picked up his phone and typed a message to his friend. He didn't send it. The message said, "I feel behind, and I don't know how to catch up." He deleted it, not because he was ashamed, because he didn't want pity. He didn't want advice that sounded like a lecture. He didn't want someone to tell him to stay positive. He wanted something simpler. He wanted to understand what was happening to him. A few days later, on a Saturday morning, Ibrahim went for a walk. No destination, no plan, just walking. The street was calm. The air was cool. The sky looked like it had not decided what it wanted to be. He walked past a small bookshop. He had passed it many times before, but he had never entered. This time he did. The bell above the door made a soft sound, like it was not trying to disturb the quiet. Inside, the shop smelled like paper and time. An older man stood behind the counter, reading a book as if the world outside did not exist. The man looked up and nodded politely. Isham walked between the shelves slowly, not searching for something specific, just being there. And then he saw a thin book with a plain cover. The title was simple, "The Value of Slow." He held it for a moment, turned it over, read a few lines. He didn't know why, but his chest felt lighter. He bought the book. That afternoon he sat by his window. With the book open on his lap, the street outside was moving, but softly. He read slowly. One line made him pause. It said in a calm way, "Some people grow fast, others grow deep." He read it again. "Some people grow fast, others grow deep." He didn't know why, but tears rose in his eyes. Not dramatic tears, quiet ones, because that line felt like permission. Permission to be where he was, without calling it failure. For the first time in a long time, Ibrahim stopped asking, "When will I arrive?" and asked a different question. "What is this season teaching me?" He didn't find the answer immediately, but the question itself changed something inside him. The next week, Ibrahim started noticing patterns. He noticed how often he rushed, not with his feet, with his mind. He rushed decisions, rushed feelings, rushed healing. He rushed because he believed that if he moved quickly enough, he would escape the fear of being left behind. But rushing did not make him feel ahead. It made him feel scattered. So he tried something new. He tried being slow on purpose. He began with small things. He ate without scrolling. He walked without music. He sat in silence for 5 minutes. Before starting his day, at first it felt uncomfortable. Silence has a way of showing you what you have been avoiding. In silence, Ibrahim realized how tired he was. Not tired from work, tired from carrying himself, tired from pretending everything was fine, tired from trying to be strong in a world that rarely rewards quiet strength. One evening he visited his friend Hassan. Hassan was the type of person who always seemed confident. He spoke clearly, laughed easily, moved through life like he belonged everywhere. They sat outside, watching the street lights turn on. Hassan asked, casually, "So what's going on with you?" Ibrahim almost said, "Nothing much." That was his usual answer. But this time he paused. Then he said calmly, "I think I've been rushing my life, and I don't know why." Hassan looked at him quietly. Then Hassan surprised him. He didn't laugh. He didn't give a speech. He just said, "I get it." Ibrahim blinked. Hassan continued softly, "I look confident, but I rush too. I just hide it better." That sentence sat between them like a shared truth. Sometimes the people you think are ahead are simply better at acting certain. They stayed quiet for a while. Then Hassan said something. "Ibrahim didn't forget," he said. "Being behind isn't always the problem. Sometimes the problem is you don't trust your timing. Trust your timing." Ibrahim went home with those words in his mind, not as motivation, as a mirror. Over the next month, Ibrahim began rebuilding his days, not with pressure, with honesty. He wrote down what drained him and what calmed him. He noticed that some conversations left him anxious. Some friendships felt like performance. Some habits were not habits, they were escape. So he started letting things go, not dramatically, quietly. He stopped replying immediately to everything. He stopped over-explaining. He stopped trying to be available to everyone. At first he felt guilty. Then he felt relief. The world didn't collapse. And that taught him something. Sometimes the version of you that is always available is not kind, it is afraid. One day at work, a small conflict happened. A coworker blamed Ibrahim for something that wasn't his fault. Normally, Ibrahim would stay quiet and carry the blame, not because he agreed, because he hated tension. But that day he felt different, not angry, clear. He looked at the coworker and said calmly, "I understand you're upset, but that wasn't my responsibility." His voice was steady. His words were simple. No insult, no drama, just truth. The coworker paused, then looked away, and something happened inside Ibrahim. He realized he could speak without becoming loud. He could have boundaries without becoming harsh. He could protect himself without needing anyone's permission. That was a new kind of strength, the quiet kind. In the following weeks, Ajahn noticed his mind changing, not suddenly, slowly. His mornings became calmer, not perfect, but calmer. He still had questions, but the questions no longer sounded like panic. They sounded like curiosity. What matters to me? What do I want to build? What do I want my life to feel like? Who do I become when no one is watching? He began to understand something important. A life is not only built through big decisions. It is built through small, repeated choices. The choice to show up, the choice to rest properly, the choice to stop chasing people who keep you uncertain, the choice to stay consistent when no one claps. One evening, Ibrahim opened his notebook and wrote one sentence. "I want a life that feels calm." He stared at that sentence for a long time, because it sounded simple, but he knew it was not. A calm life requires courage. It requires saying no. It requires letting go. It requires patience. It requires choosing peace. Even when chaos feels familiar. Months passed. Nothing magical happened. Ibrahim didn't suddenly become famous. He didn't suddenly become rich. He didn't suddenly become someone else. But something better happened. He became someone he could live with. He started feeling proud of the invisible work, the discipline, the emotional control, the quiet boundaries, the steady pace. And he noticed something strange. When he stopped rushing, life stopped feeling like a race. The same streets looked softer. The same job felt lighter. The same days felt less threatening. Because his inner world was no longer at war. One afternoon, Ibrahim met a woman named Miriam at the bookshop. He was browsing slowly. Miriam was doing the same. She asked him if he had read a certain book. He said no, then asked her what she liked about it. They spoke for a few minutes. Nothing dramatic, just a calm conversation. That didn't feel like performance. Before she left, she smiled and said, "You seem like someone who likes quiet." Ibrahim almost denied it, but he didn't. He said, "I used to fear quiet. Now I respect it." She nodded, as if she understood. Over time they became friends. Not the fast kind of friendship that burns bright and disappears. The steady kind. The kind where silence is not awkward. Where messages don't need pressure. Where you can be human without being impressive. Ibrahim didn't call it love. He didn't rush it. He simply let it be what it was. And that was another lesson. Not everything needs to be forced to become something. Some things become meaningful because you let them breathe. One night, Miriam said something that stayed with him. They were walking slowly and the air was cool. She said, "People think a quiet life means nothing is happening, but quiet can mean you're finally safe inside yourself, safe inside yourself." Ibrahim felt those words, like a door closing gently behind him, because he realized that was what he had been searching for. Not success that looked good, safety, the kind of safety where you don't abandon yourself. A year later, Ibrahim sat by his window again, the same window, the same street below. But he felt different. He remembered the night. He stared at his ceiling and couldn't explain his life. He remembered the message he deleted. "I feel behind." Now he understood the truth. He was never truly behind. He was simply in a season where his growth was private, where his progress was internal, where his strength was being built, without applause. And if he had rushed past that season, he would have arrived somewhere without the maturity to stay. The quiet season did not make him perfect. It made him grounded. It taught him to breathe, to choose, to pause, to speak calmly, to walk away when needed, to build his life slowly, to stop begging for proof. And in a world that rewards noise, that kind of growth is rare. If you are listening to this, and your life feels quiet right now, if you feel like nothing is changing, if you feel like you're trying, but nobody is noticing, there is something worth remembering. Not all growth is visible. Not all progress makes noise. Some seasons are quiet on purpose, because they are building the part of you that will not collapse later. People might call it luck. They might say you came out of nowhere, but you will know the truth. You didn't come out of nowhere. You came out of quiet. You came out of days you kept going when nobody clapped. You came out of nights. You chose discipline over escape. You came out of the season that taught you how to stay. And that is why, when your life begins to change, it will not be fragile. It will be real. It will be steady. It will be yours. And you won't need to rush anymore, because you'll finally understand the quiet season did change everything. It just didn't announce it.